Hello everyone, my name is Moji. You're watching a Bitcoin bubble news channel. It was a good idea to buy Bitcoin 10 years ago. It was a good idea to buy Bitcoin 15 years ago. But Bitcoin is always a good idea because the power law makes that very clear. So let's say you join today and wait another 15 years, right? So if you double the amount of time Bitcoin has been around, that is, 15 years from now, you'll get to the point where you're adding 2 times to the 6th. We are adding 6 to that growing time to make it bigger. There are 64 times 2 to the 6. Please tell me how you get 64 times your cash with something else. You don't get it. Neuroscientist and astronomer Giovanni Santostasi came up with the idea for the Bitcoin power law model. This model says that we can better predict how Bitcoin's price will change by looking at how price changes over time. In the past few weeks, this plan has been criticized. Michael Saylor, the executive chairman of MicroStrategy, recently said at the Bitcoin conference that all Bitcoin models are wrong. Plan B, a well-known Bitcoin expert, said that the power law model was too optimistic and unstable. He compared it to his own stock-to-flow model, which says that Bitcoin will have exponential returns, while Giovanni's model says that Bitcoin will have diminishing returns over time. A business litigator named Jor Lari also said bad things about the model on Twitter. He said that power laws don't always work and can't predict the future because they only show how many users there are, which changes. Even though this model has been criticized, Giovanni and followers of it, such as famous mathematician and Bitcoin fan Fred Krueger, say that the power law is still the best scientific way to predict how Bitcoin will perform in the future. Saylor says that Bitcoin's destructive nature goes against all models and that all of your models will be destroyed. They don't make sense any longer. If you know about Bitcoin, you know that you need to get rid of them all. While Godzilla is on the playground, none of your models are useful. He thinks that Bitcoin will grow at a rate of 24% per year for the next few years. Saylor's anti-model arguments are fought back by Krueger, who says that the Bitcoin power law model is a good way to predict how much Bitcoin will cost in the coming decades. He says that Saylor's estimate of 24% is too low and points out that the real numbers show a CAGR closer to 44%, which is expected to drop to 34% in 10 years and to 24% in 2. Giovanni recently talked to Simply Bitcoin about why the power law model is better and predicted that Bitcoin purchases will grow by 64x to 150x over the next 15 years. Let me describe what scaling variance means. When people hear this word, it turns them off. The idea is very, very simple. The idea is to use a child as a model. Watch how a kid grows. Does a child grow? I mean, we all have big heads when we're young, right? That's why we look so cute. There must be a reason, right? That's because of certain things. Is it true that the brain has to be big from the start and to do a lot of things and other stuff? That's why our heads are so big when we are born. It's the biggest you can have and still be born properly. The kid, on the other hand, grows and changes in every way right now. It goes through a time when other things happen very quickly. But in general, it grows at the same rate. Scaling variance means that everything goes up in the same way. What is the right amount of Bitcoin? What do I mean by scale? The change in price when looked at from a scale point of view. We use this language in science. The idea isn't hard to understand. Scale stands for 10, 100, 1,000, and 10,000. Don't look at how much Bitcoin moves from $10 to $20, $25 to $100, $100 to $125, or $200. Instead, look at how much Bitcoin costs. When Bitcoin changed, it always went up by a factor of 10. If you then look at the time, you can see that the change on this scale is equal to the change in time. This means that it only took a few days to go from, say, a few cents to $1. Going from $1 to $10 took a few weeks. From 10 to 1,000, it took a few months. You should feel very sure after reading the power law, right? Of course, there is risk with every trade, and Bitcoin is no different. You never look at danger by itself, right? You look at how the risks and benefits compare, right? Risks and gains. As long as you know about the power law, the risk here is very, very, very small. No one can say zero because that would get you jailed, especially since so many other things are happening like institutions adopting it, countries adopting it, and so on. There is a very small chance of harm. 1, you might be able to figure out something that Fred, me, and someone else can use to compare the risk of Bitcoin. You can now do it in a lot of different ways, like with a Sharpie or something else. We can figure it out, but I think it's very, very small. You may remember that I told you that over time, it's like riding on top of a reducing factor. The benefits are huge because we aren't, even now, of course, yes, in the beginning. This is where we're making the size smaller. It was a good idea to buy Bitcoin 10 years ago. It was a good idea to buy Bitcoin 15 years ago. But that's always a good time to Bitcoin because the power law makes that clear. So let's say you join today and wait another 15 years, right? That means that if you double the amount of time Bitcoin has been around, you'll have 2 times as much time, right? 2 times. 2 against 6. That growth time is being run to the 6th. There are 64 times 2 to the 6th. Please tell me how you get 64 times your cash with something else. Is that what you mean? After 15 years. Yes, it is, especially for young people, because I promise you 15 years goes by quickly when you're that age, okay? They fly really well. Like 15 years from now, you'll be like, where the heck did those 15 years go? Especially to the young people, be a little more bold. Because if you start, we have to be honest, you should put $300 a month into Bitcoin, right? You do DCA, and you should keep doing this. In 15 years, you will be in a good place, but you won't be a millionaire. We could also try to do the maths. I believe I did it several times. You're not quite ready to get old. One thing you can do, please get what I mean. Don't think I'm telling you to do something crazy or stupid. The power law can help you find these trends. Now, you need to know why the power law is based on so many facts and such a strong fundamental idea. It's based on what Bitcoin did in terms of cycles that I'm about to tell you. We have 2 behaviors. It goes in this long-term direction. Then there are these loops. You can always count on these processes. Every 4 years they take place. The peak takes place at a certain time, etc. However, you know that starting with just 3 data points is almost careless, but that's what we have. So let's say that these cycles keep happening. I think I have very good science reasons for this, which we can talk about now, and people can read more of my work later. If this cycle keeps going, you might want to try being a little more active. What do I mean by that? I carefully considered my options and said, okay, I'll take 10% to 20%. I'm only going to go 50%. 50%, it seems like a pretty bold and balanced plan, but 10% is fine. You sell 10% of your stock when it turns red. How did I get this chart? Taking breaks from the power law gave me this chart. The power law will be the red flat line then. No amount because I'm taking enough, right? In other words, everything fits with the trend. You can draw the price of Bitcoin and find very specific times when it's a good idea to buy. This green area is one of those times. We can do better. There are other ways that we can almost zoom in on the bottom. But even if you just say, okay, anything below this amount of deviation is a good buy, that's fine. Everything above it looks like a place I might want to make some wins, right? I should sell some of my Bitcoin so that you can buy it back at a lower price. You don't spend it or do anything stupid with it. You wait until you get back to the green area. If you do this, we're no longer talking about 64. I did an estimate that is very close to that number. Do you get it? Like, what's the best thing that could happen? After that, you need to take that number and multiply it by some kind of force, right? Whatever the number is, alpha, 10%, or whatever, that explains both your dedication to this method and its waste, since we'll never get it 100% right. Again, though, if you got it 100% right, it's because you think that everything looks the same. There are 1,200 of them here. That's how much Bitcoin is left if this circle keeps going, okay? Of course, you won't get 1,000.